How can productivity suites like Microsoft Office 365 help you protect your employees and your customers from profanity and sharing of information? Now, it used to be the case where bullying or slights to your reputation used to be done round the water cooler or behind your back, typically behind closed doors where you weren't privy to what was going on, and bullying takes many forms. Now, unfortunately, it's the same within the enterprise, within the modern workplace. We're all now given all these formats of which people can pass and collaborate and communicate, and information can be sent from one to another, and these are obviously open to abuse. How would you protect your employees and your customers and give them a safe workplace that is collaborative and productive without fear of being bullied? How would you ensure that your company brand is not sullied by a disgruntled employee, or certain information is not passed across these electronic forms and lines of communication? I mean, of course, this video is entitled about foul language, but it also can be saying about, hey, what about sharing financial data? Or people trolling or phishing you? How do you prevent this? Well, Microsoft Teams, Skype, and Outlook have a facility within Office 365 which is now called the Microsoft Security and Compliance Center. Now, this allows you to monitor certain types of information for review. Now, here's the thing with reviewing information. There's going to be aspects, if you work in a multinational organization, of different countries and their workers' councils. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. Now, if you're an admin on your Office 365 tenant, you'll have the admin icon and you'll be very familiar with that. You can get that from the Office 365 main page or by clicking on the left-hand toolbar where you can select the icon. Either way, it'll take you to the same screen. Now, as you can see, this is a test tenant. I haven't set it up completely, but for this demonstration, it's going to do perfectly fine. Now, by default, click on Show All and you get the rest of the functionality listed in the left-hand panel. Moving down to Compliance along the left-hand menu bar will allow you to enter the Compliance Center. Now, this has gone through a bit of a transformation of late, but typically the screens you're going to be shown now are the ones that you're going to be seeing in the future tenant. This is going to give you a level of compliance. It will show you how compliant your tenant of Office 365 is, how you're doing with certain certifications, how you're doing with your app compliance, and you'll also notice as well who is one of the biggest file sharing people. Now, of course, Megan's one of our biggest sharing people, and we've discussed this in one of our previous videos, whereas we were there downloading information. This could be typically where disgruntled employees then try to take your IP with them to the next job. So we're going to click on Supervision and create a supervision policy. Now, as it says here, supervision policies let you define policies that capture email, Teams channels and chats and third-party communications coming into your organization so they can be monitored and reviewed by relevant administration individuals. So we're going to click on the Compliance Center and we're going to create a policy, and this couldn't be easier, and we're going to go through each of these steps now. So you guessed it, we're going to click on Create and we're going to name our policy. So typically we're going to concentrate on foul language. So we're going to call it the foul language policy. And we're going to put a little description in this. All this is best practice within Office 365, getting to name what you're doing. So if another administrator comes in behind you, or you're off on the sick, or you're on holiday, they know exactly what's going on and they can see which policies they can review. So with that, we're now going to click the next button and proceed through the wizard. So, choose the users to supervise. Now, as I mentioned before, if you work in a multinational environment, you could have people in Germany, France, all over Europe that have different working and labour laws to what you may have in the UK or to your country of residence. This will also monitor what information can be shared, what can be monitored. So you have to be really careful. And I must stress this. Please liaise with HR and your workers' councils when setting up a policy that's going to supervise the information that is going to be transmitted back and forth, how you set up your social collaboration policy, and what you're actually going to review, because you could be infringing people's workers' rights. And that's really important to notice. So we're going to select some people. And as you can see, is a list of all the groups and users that we've got within our particular tenant of the collaboration kernel. Now, you can select individual users, you can select groups, or you can select the entire organization. Okay, now this is pretty good. If you've got your administration policies in place, then you've selected people who are going to be in a corporate team, a corporation-wide team, or you can select people who are going to be in country teams, and you can select and apply policies that are particular to those particular geographic or business locations. So as you can see, we've got sales, we've got corporate. So we're gonna say we're gonna monitor sales, and you can see that the information we're gonna monitor is Teams channels, Skype for business chat, and of course Exchange. And at the moment, Exchange is grayed out, but you get the idea. So you can select or unselect these items in blue, depending on what you want to monitor. Now, moving back to exclude users. So let's say, for instance, well, okay, I don't really want to monitor everybody. So let's just exclude a particular team. And you go and select, for example, the Northwind traders. So these people will be excluded from any monitoring that goes on. You can also add a condition. You can see what direction you want the mail flow to be. Do you just want to monitor inbound and outbound information coming in and out of your tenant, in and out of your company? Do you want to monitor that for transactional information or specific words? And herein lies the key. When defining your policies, think about what you want that policy to do and have multiple policies so that by just changing something within a policy doesn't affect everybody. Set one up for each geographic location, each country, each division, and stipulate what you want people to be able to share. For example, think about profanity in the sales force. Well, you don't want your company being slighted by disgruntled employees. And there's a huge list of conditions that you can go down and you can monitor as well and review people who are actually sharing large amounts of information and then pull them in, have a chat with them, see in what context. For example, in sales, it might be a large presentation. That could give you a false positive. Now, there are two other sections here as well we're going to come back to in a moment, but we're going to go through the basic ideas of how to set one up. So, for example, message contains any of these words, and we're going to say widget dongle. Okay, so if any of the messages contain widget dongle, it's going to be flagged up for review, and it'll be reviewed by some of our reviewers. So what percentage of these communications do you want to be reviewed? Do you want to know everybody who mentions the word widget dongle coming in and out of your corporate messaging systems? Well, if it's really pertinent to what you're doing and it's good for your company IP, then you'll want to know what information is being passed out to ensure that people are in compliance. But think of the administration overhead that goes into this. It would be absolutely huge. And of course, you can then select your reviewers. This could be your compliance team or just your administration. So you can select people who are going to be defined for this. We're going to choose administration and we're going to click next. Now you're then given the option to review your settings, go back, amend them and adjust them. So you can go through, have a quick look through what you want to do. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about foul language and also financial information that could be passed through. We're going to click at the top. We're going to go through the name of the policy. You can change the name of the policy here. Scrolling through to next, again, you can add or change the number of users who are in there. So for example, you could say for everybody. And then we're going to go to these sections that we kind of skipped over before. It's what matches the data condition. And by selecting this, you can select foul or offensive language. And that will go through a Microsoft predefined foul or a language filter. Okay, and flag up those messages that have got foul or offensive language in them, whether that be in Microsoft Teams, Exchange via Outlook, or Skype for Business. Now, as we selected sensitive information, this part allows you to go in and select either custom or particular financial or medical or privacy information that's been defined by Microsoft following a number of common sets of information that can be shared, whether that be UK SWIFT codes, credit card details, driving license numbers, or if you're in the US, you've got, again, credit card numbers, your social security number, all this sort of information that if transmitted outside without the proper compliance could compromise either the company or the individual, and could, again, compromise certain sessions like GDPR or the sharing of information, the Patriot Act, all things like that. Again, it takes you through what percentage of these informations do you want to monitor, and then that's effectively it. You click on finish after reviewing what your compliancy policy has done, and then you're ready to go. After a short activation time, you can then monitor the platforms of Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business, and Outlook via Exchange as well for inbound and outbound communication, but also internal communication as well. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is, as I've mentioned several times in this video, to liaise and speak to your HR department and your workers' councils in the countries that you're currently operating in. Now, I say this because, again, it could compromise what's going on about workers' rights, and also think about how you want your company to operate. Think about the standards you want to adhere to. Think about the social collaboration policy you want to enforce. Social collaboration policies are really important. We'll come on to one of those in a future video, and where I've spoken to at length and where I've actually been published in some of the Microsoft publications about. However, what I will say is that having policies is one thing. Having the time to monitor them is something else, and to ensure compliance. So we've seen where you can add 10%, 20%, 30, 40, 50, even 100% of communications to be monitored. That's going to take up a lot of someone's time to do that monitoring. So how important are things to you? How important is your IP, and how important is your employees' safety to work in an area where they can collaborate and be productive without the use of foul language and being bullied within the workplace? Personally, I think this is absolutely fantastic and a must for all admins, and something that should be considered. Look out for more videos in the series. I hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.